everybody. Welcome back to What the Film. I'm your host, Logan Thompson, joined, as always, by
Ethan Kaufman, your lovely co-host. Hey, hi, hello.
This is the latest we've ever recorded this podcast.
It's
This is
it's
almost
almost
9
9
p.m. on Sunday night.
and
So,
we're recording 2 episodes right now.
yeah, we record 2 episodes every Sunday.
Woo!
So it's wonderful. This is our first of the two.
Yes.
Our episode where we're going to talk about the box office. But first, we got our segment, Newsflash. So we're going to be talking about some news that has happened in the past week since our last box office episode. So kicking off the news, IATSE has landed a 3-year tentative deal with the studios. Thank God. Hollywood is still experiencing a production slowdown due to the looming strike possibilities from a failed deal with the IATSE. So this tentative agreement means that they can actually ramp up to 100% production for 3 years at least. So here are some of the details. 7% payment increase for the first year, 4%, and then 3.5% for every following year. They will be getting triple time for 15 plus hour work days. I feel like it should probably be less than 15 hours for triple time, but
probably
is what it is. Double for seventh day working. So if they don't get a day off on like a Sunday or something after working Monday through Saturday, then there you go, double time. Healthcare improvements, not really more specific than that, but hopefully that is the case. AI protections, and then also streaming residuals, which is really good. I think that's probably the biggest thing from this deal is that these people will be getting residuals from streaming like they deserve. And what's next? The deal is now going to be sent out to members of IATSE to ratify it. If it gets ratified, then that is when productions can finally kick back into full swing again. Also, this deal would only cover LA. There are still going to be negotiations happening outside of LA, which is very important because not all production happens in LA anymore. You have a lot of really popular places like Atlanta. Louisiana has become a really big place for film. Of course, New York, and many other places where, filmmaking is still kind of a big deal and you need to reach deals for those places. So, Ethan, do you have any thoughts?
I think this is good.
Me too.
Hopefully this goes somewhere better than what we've been dealing with for like the last little bit, where like, even because I don't keep up with the news as much as maybe I used to, but even in just going to the movies and in like being here talking about stuff, there has been less to talk about this year. And a big part of that is because of all the strikes and what happened with all that last year. And so whatever needs to happen for production to get back to full swing with everybody in Hollywood getting, the right wages, protections from AI, healthcare, all of that they should be getting. It's great.
Yeah, I agree. And 2025 looks like it's going to be a great year for film because you have a lot of films that started at least pre-production before the strikes and are now wrapping up production this year and then will be released in 2025. And that's going to be wonderful. But if we really want a good slate of films for after 2025, we need these kind of deals to happen so that way production can keep going and there's not going to be just like a slowdown once all of these films that have been being worked on since pre-strikes are done. But yeah, that's kind of all the thoughts I have. I just think that's an important thing to share for this podcast.
Agreed.
Moving on, Paramount is doing some cost cutting. They're selling off assets like TV channels, potentially selling its lot for in a weird way, like the famous landmark Paramount lot. They are going to be selling it, but then renting it back from whoever they sell it to, and then have some sort of fine print in their deal where they will have like an advantage to repurchase the lot. So I don't know how this financially makes sense for anybody who would buy the lot from Paramount to make any sort of profit, but okay. I mean, I guess the way that you can make a profit is then starting a big like kind of brand on giving tours of the lot and making those super expensive and cutting deals with Paramount so that way people can meet celebrities and pay thousands of dollars to meet these celebrities. I guess.
Something like that.
Yeah,
There's I'm sure a market for that, but
yeah, I bet that there's a huge market for
yeah.
that, and that's how I'd try to make money off of buying the Paramount lot from Paramount. But who knows how that would happen? Also, they are going to be doing $500 million worth of cost cutting in terms of positions, which I think is really ironic. And so did the dailies, where I got this news from, because they have 3 CEOs currently.
You don't need that many.
Yeah. So if you're going to be cost cutting positions, does that mean that they'll be cost cutting 2 of the 3? Well, they have like a little duel with broken in half pool sticks like the Dark Knight.
Probably.
Wouldn't that be great?
Challengers tennis match. Winner gets to stay on as CEO.
Oh, yeah. 3-way tennis match.
Yeah.
All right. Well, do you have any thoughts that you'd like to add?
I mean, I'm just confused by most of this.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a little confusing.
That's about it. Yeah.
But it's sad stuff going on. Now we have more fun stuff that is more understandable and digestible.
Oh, yeah.
Shrek 5 2025.
Shrek 5!
According to Eddie Murphy, who's begun recording lines for it. And also, there's a donkey spinoff in the works.
On one hand, why? On the other hand, I get it.
It's
and
donkey.
I'm down.
I can't complain about a donkey spinoff.
Even as someone who still to this day has not seen Shrek 2. It's crazy. There's like no reason for me to have not seen Shrek 2 at this point. I'm still hype. I'll watch it. Logan, I promise I'll watch it.
I saw it like 2 months ago. It's pretty good.
I swear to you I'll watch it.
In other news, Andor Season 2 is set to bring back Ben Mendelsohn as Krennic. So that's kind of cool. Vibes. Next, Yorgos Lanthimos film with Jesse Plemons and Emily Stone is set to release November 2025. So that means we will be getting a Yorgos film 3 times in 3 years.
He just keeps going.
Let's see if he can keep on doing it. I mean, yeah. I just think it's really cool because a lot of times you got directors who take forever to release a film, and it kind of sucks because, you know, back in the olden days before we were twinkles in our parents' eyes, you know, like directors were making a film every other year. Like they were churning movies out, and a lot of them were hits. So I'm glad to see that there's one great director. The Yorgos
grind is interesting though, because like he did The Lobster, Killing of a Sacred Deer, and The Favorite in the span of 4 years, 3 movies in 4 years, and then takes a 5-year break and is now like Poor Things, Kinds of Kindness, like whatever works for him. I don't know.
Yeah, you know, every once in a while you just need a little bit of a break, and then you're right back in it. It's awesome. Harry Potter, the HBO series, is set to be produced by Mark Mylod and Francesca Gardner, both coming from Succession. Gardner as a writer and Mylod as a director. Mylod also directed The Menu. So, although the series might seem redundant, I think the talent behind the camera is very promising, and also I think is a key difference in why it's a big deal that Harry Potter, and now you're hearing a lot of other big budget HBO Max shows are now being considered genuine HBO shows. It's because now these are going to be treated a lot more prestigiously. You have like HBO heads who will be overseeing all of these projects and trying to get like genuine, really talented people behind the camera to make these series like as good as possible. Because at the end of the day, HBO has a reputation to uphold, and that reputation just, it would be, I think, a disaster for them financially if it was ruined by all these big budget series being mediocre. Like they have to do what they can to make them genuinely great series. So I'm excited.
Me too. Like I have been a huge Harry Potter fan for like well over a decade, I would say.
Me too.
And given that Succession is top 2 shows of all time for me, this is something I'm very happy about and can kind of get on board with. Because when the reboot was announced, like Deathly Hallows Part 2 was 2011, it still feels very fresh and recent and like too fresh to do a reboot. But like I think just the format of Harry Potter, I do think plays well as a series instead of like, obviously the movies are great, but I think doing like one season for each kind of year at Hogwarts is a good idea in theory. And so having now these people on working on it, I feel a little better about it.
Me too.
I
Yeah.
can sleep soundly tonight.
Yeah, like because before I was like a very mixed because I love Harry Potter. It's great to be getting like a series that I can kind of grow with
Yeah,
the actors, like how people did with Daniel Radcliffe, Emma Watson, etc. But it felt redundant still, just because it's so close. But I
right.
think if it's good and if it does something different enough to really distance itself from the films and set itself apart in a good way, I'd say that makes it worth it.
Mark Mylod directed Connor's wedding. I have faith in him.
And last but not least, Dune Messiah and Star Wars Episode 10 are set to release on the same day in 2026, I think December 26th.
I'm
So,
calling it right now. This will change.
yeah, I am too. I'm just curious which studio. I'm
Like
thinking,
who's gonna back out?
yeah, I'm thinking Disney will back out.
I think Disney too.
Yeah, I think one, because I think Dune Messiah will probably just begin production sooner, and two, because this episode 10 is going to be a Ray movie. So I just
Yeah.
think, with that hate towards Ray, they're going to want to put it somewhere where it will be unopposed. So I wouldn't be surprised if they got pushed back to like 2027 or something like
Yeah,
that.
it's weird saying this because Star Wars is like Star Wars, but I think
Yeah.
it is the one out of the two that is gonna need to play it safe.
Yeah, exactly.
And especially because like this, like the whole appeal of Barbenheimer was how different the movies are. You
Yeah.
can't have two space epics on this. You
No.
just can't.
No. And I think I do genuinely think I don't think I would have been saying this 5 years ago, but right now I definitely think that Dune Messiah would outperform
Yeah,
episode 10 if they played next to each other.
agreed.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, people have lost faith in Star Wars.
Somehow, some way, Dune is bigger than Star Wars right now.
Yeah. Which is crazy.
Seems impossible, but
I think
it
if it
isn't.
was I think if it wasn't a Ray movie, things would
Maybe
be
that,
different.
yeah.
Like if it was the Mandalorian and Grogu right there, I'd be a little bit more hesitant, even though Mando season 3 wasn't as good. But because it's the Ray movie,
You bring all the baggage of the sequel trilogy with it.
exactly, and I just think that baggage is really heavy.
Yeah.
Yeah, no matter how good Episode 10 could be.
And especially if Dune 2 at the Oscars is going to go the way we think it's going to, Dune Messiah is going to be looked at as not only Dune Messiah, but also big potential Best Picture winner, Dune Messiah.
Yeah.
So
Also, if they do think that it could be a Best Picture winner, then maybe Warner is the one that actually moves Dune Messiah to a November date.
maybe,
Maybe.
I doubt it.
Yeah. But so I think that they're going to hold steady with that
Yeah,
Christmas type of release date. But yeah. All
vibes.
right. Well, now let's move on to the box office,
The
and then
box office.
once we get to a film that is new, we will talk about it. So,
Yes.
number one at the box office is not a new film for the weekend. It is Inside Out 2, which made $57.4 million, dropped 43%. Still doing great. I think it's
Yep.
crossed $1 billion at this point. So, the first movie of the year to cross $1 billion. Doing great. Let's see if it passes Barbie. We'll just kind of we'll talk about it if
Yeah.
it ever does. Yeah, I think it's doing better than Barbie right now, though, which is great. Next is A Quiet Place Day 1, which
This
made
one's new.
$53 million. The website that we look at, the numbers projected it to make 68.9, which is
It's a lot.
wild.
Yeah.
Just because, like, most other things that don't use the numbers just uses a formula
Yeah.
and it doesn't use any like kind of human logic to change the formula. So sometimes the formula is really, really accurate, and other times it's way, way off. And here
Should
it was
we
way,
stop
way
using
off.
it for our auction, I guess?
I
If we're
don't,
gonna criticize it that much.
I don't know. We'll have to look into
All
it.
right.
I think for now, we'll look
Okay.
into it.
We'll come
But
back.
anyways, since it was way, way off, and most like Deadline and other like Hollywood Reporter would say things like high 40 millions, I'd say that this is a
Yeah.
success. And we both saw this movie.
We
So
did.
Ethan, what did you think?
So, my opinion of this movie, unfortunately, was tainted by one of the worst theater experiences I think I've ever had, which I'm very surprised by because, like, we talked about this a couple weeks ago. A Quiet Place as a franchise, there is this sort of respect when you go to the theater to see it because it's a very quiet movie. You obviously have those loud points. It's a horror movie, there are jump scares, whatever. But for the
Yeah.
most part, you have very good sound design that is on a low level, and people respect that, and they shut their mouths and they stop like crinkling their little bags of candy, and they don't whisper to the person next to them, and they don't fart in the movie theater. And for whatever reason, none of those rules, none of those rules were obeyed when I saw this yesterday.
I love the tidbit about fart in the movie theater.
There was a person 4 rows down from us that farted at like loud fart volume. And the person next to
Oh
them
my
laughed
god.
about it, and then they farted again. Also, the projector had issues where, like, I know this is a thing that sometimes 4K movies are just projected, like, badly, and so the whole screen was, like, tinted green and purple the whole time.
Did nobody want to say anything to the theater?
I guess not, I don't know. I was too lazy to get up because I was at a Regal. I hate Regal, but I was at a
Yeah, I
Regal.
don't like Regal either.
Yeah. No, I had a very bad theater experience, and I was comparing it to the first two where I had very good theater experiences and really liked them. But all of that being said, I did enjoy this.
Hmm.
And I think it's probably my least favorite of the three, just because I think for me I wanted a little bit more like day one action out of it. I
Yeah,
think because like we see in the first 10 minutes of part two, it is day one, and so we've kind of already seen that. And I wanted a little more if we were going to be spending the whole movie there. And spoiler alert, I guess it's not day one; it's days two and three. You start on day one, but it's kind of just days two and three, but for most of it. And so the part I didn't like, it felt very samey. I think I wanted more of like the characters figuring out like kind of the rules of the aliens.
yeah,
And there wasn't a lot of that. They figure out very early on you got to be quiet, and then it's just kind of a quiet place but in New York
mhm,
City. That part I did really like. The change in setting I think
yeah.
works very well for the narrative. And we'll get into this in our next episode, I guess. Um the director brings so much character to really the two main people, but really Lupita Nyong'o's character,
Hmm.
and it makes you care. And I didn't expect to, given we're dealing with new characters now, like the core family of the main first two parts you connect with. But the fact that we're now changing characters and it's a whole new setting, kind of like a spin off just in the same universe, I didn't expect to care that much. And there's not a lot of emotional beats, but when you get to those scenes, they hit. And there are a couple points where they like utilize the inherent gimmick of the franchise to have some very effective moments. And it's just overall a lot more character driven than I expected it to be. And I really liked that because if I wasn't getting exactly all of the thrills that I wanted and I was dealing with Farts McGee a couple rows down, it's good that we at least had like some nice character development and emotional moments. So that's
Yeah.
what I got to say.
I completely agree. My favorite part of this film was just the character moments here. I think that it completely does character moments very differently than A Quiet Place 1 and 2, where I feel like the character moments in those films just it was a lot more driven by the monsters and all of that. Well, I feel like the character moments here, yes, they're happening because of the monsters, but they're a lot more personal than that. And you know, like people could be doing similar things to what these characters are doing without the monsters being there. You know what I mean? If you've seen this
Yeah.
film, I think you might know kind of what I mean by this. I just don't want to spoil
Yeah.
what journey these two characters go on. Those characters being Lupita Nyong'o and Joseph Quinn. Their performances are also fantastic.
Yeah.
I found the scares to be really good here. And, even though we don't get to see them learning to be quiet, we do get to see them getting used to having to be quiet.
Yeah.
At least it's not a thing where it's like they're immediately adjusted. Like you
Right.
see them struggle, which I still think is a good touch. And I think just filmmaking wise and writing wise, it's probably really hard to come up with that moment of, oh, we have to be quiet here. I think it's probably something where, like, you know, somebody just interpreted it at some point to like be quiet and then saw somebody being loud get killed and was like, oh, I have to be quiet. And you kind of saw Lupita Nyong'o make that
Yeah.
realization. That's a little bit of a spoiler, but it happens in like the first 20 minutes of the movie. And yeah, so I feel like we do get that a little bit, but maybe not as much as was kind of expected, I guess you could say.
Right.
Um, but I still really appreciated this film. I thought it was really well made. Just the directing here was great, and I did not think that my biggest takeaway from a Quiet Place movie would be that my favorite part were the character moments,
Yeah.
but they were. This film is kind of a love story.
A little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, maybe a platonic love story,
Yeah.
maybe a non-platonic. I don't really know. We don't see the extents of this relationship, really. It's kind of hard to tell, but it doesn't really matter because either way I think it's structured very similarly, and I just think it works very effectively. And I think it's beautiful, and the ending was really cheesy and cliche, but I thought it worked really well.
Yes.
Yes, so those are my thoughts. Good movie.
It made me want pizza.
It made me want pizza too. And this is going to be a good movie to lead our discussion, where next episode we're going to be talking about indie turned blockbuster directors. And we don't mean like a Greta Gerwig who had like Lady Bird and then Little Women as sort of a middle type of movie before
Right.
Barbie. We mean directors like Michael Sarnowski, who did Pig and then jumped right to Day One with no like middle type of movie to
Yeah.
sort of guide towards that huge budget jump. But yeah, with that being said, I'm excited for that discussion that we're going to have.
Vibes.
And I
You
think
know
we
what
should move
discussion I'm
on.
not excited for?
This
Is our
next
segue into
discussion,
this next movie?
the Kevin Costner Western
Ugh.
that I think all movie nerds have talked about out of just interest, whether
Yeah,
that be positive or negative. I think it's interesting.
just one of the most ripe for discussion movies of the year in a way
Yes.
very different from every other movie that has ever come out.
Yes. And Ethan has not seen this movie, but I saw this movie a whopping 6 hours ago. I walked out of the theater, just about. Um, and it's not bad. Let me get
Sure.
that right off the bat. I
Sure.
don't think this movie, you haven't seen it, so you can't
I
even say
haven't
that.
seen it, but I have a lot to say about it.
Oh yeah, wait. Let me just say, made $11 million. It was predicted by the numbers to make 9.5. I think a lot of other like sources thought it would make under 10. So I'd say that it making 11. I'm not saying it's a success, but at least it's not underperforming projections.
Yeah.
And also, even though everybody's saying, "Oh my God, it's a $100 million movie," no, part 1 and 2 are $100 million movies together. So this movie, it's not underperforming that much because really its budget is like $50 million.
Still
So
probably not going to make it back.
oh no, not going
But
to make it
yeah,
back. But I'd say a loss on a $50 million movie is a lot better than a loss on a
definitely.
one, or like two $50 million
Yeah.
movies is bigger than losing on two $100 million movies.
Yeah.
And just maybe not as big of a bet as people like to make it out to be. As somebody who's seen this movie, it is a little TV showish, which I
Yeah.
know is probably what you wanted to talk about.
Pretty much.
This is a film where it introduces plot points and characters and just sections of this story throughout the film, whether that be at the start or in the last 30 minutes. And it's jarring because I've never seen a movie structured like that, because that's how TV is structured. But I do kind of see the vision. I see where this story is trying to go. I appreciate every different plot point. I think each plot point had some really good scenes. There are individual scenes in this movie that are some of the best scenes I've seen in like this year in terms of filmmaking. There's a about a 30-minute village raid sequence which I think is one of the best scenes of the whole year. It's really good and really intense. And at first, you think that they're trying to make Native Americans look like horrible, and I got really worried. But then it contextualizes that later on, and then you feel less bad about it because you're like, okay, so this is how it works, where they're not all terrible. It's just that there's a few extremists in the tribe of Native Americans who are doing this. The issue is that after that scene, we had about an hour of just kind of fluff before we got another great scene. And that's my other big issue with this film. It's not too long or too short, but it's also not just right. Because you have these scenes of fluff that on their own are powerful scenes, but they feel underdeveloped. At one point, you have these soldiers who are going off to go and fight in the Civil War, and you have people being emotional towards these soldiers and just being sad, that they're leaving. But you never really saw these people interact with those soldiers to contextualize and like to really make you feel that scene. And instead, it just kind of felt more like, oh, you know, they're sad that they're leaving and that's emotional, but we don't know the bond that these characters have with one another. So it's a scene that was good but could have been so much better with another scene, but then that would have made this 3-hour movie even longer. So that's kind of the dilemma it faces. But then also they could have cut out that scene, but then you have less ways to connect with the characters who are mourning. And I'm just trying to think because I have a lot of thoughts on this.
You
film,
can be done
you
talking if you want. Like, you don't have to continue talking about Horizon if you don't want to.
Yeah, but it's just so talk-aboutable.
I guess.
I guess my final note is that I'm excited for part 2.
Are you?
Yeah.
As a person who sat through the whole first movie,
as somebody who sat through the whole first movie, I'm honestly really highly anticipating part 2. And it's like that, Trap, and Alien Romulus for me in August are like probably my top 3 movies. And it's great because I'm going to be able to get it in the August movie auction for $1 and I'm going to love it.
You know what? Maybe I'll get it just to spite you. I won't let you have it.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't want it. Like, I desperately don't want it.
Yeah, but you'll do it to spite me.
Yeah.
I think you should see part 1.
I don't think so.
I think for you to understand,
maybe
just
I don't
kind
want
of the
to.
Vision.
I don't think I want to.
Mm-hmm.
I think I like where it is right now. My image of it currently is perfect.
All right, well, how about you tell us about your image of it as somebody who hasn't seen this movie but still has opinions?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, why is this a thing? And why is it just TV? That's what it is. I'm convinced. I think that if I were to watch it, that wouldn't change. You I guess can tell me as someone who has seen it. Does that lingering thought of it's just TV, like it's just a glorified TV episode, has that gone anywhere?
Yes, that is something that I've thought about.
Okay, all right.
But I just kind of am like, I want to wait till part 2 because I feel like that there's a reason why this is a movie rather than TV. Because I feel like TV financially, but financially I think TV is safer because a show like Yellowstone is successful.
Right, but also
and Yellowstone is similar to this.
I think given just the length of it, like it's not going for a multi-season sort of thing. It's just kind of like a couple parts.
Yeah,
like
it
more
could have
kind of mini series.
Yeah, like it could have been. They probably could have made this like a mini series type of thing. But also, Costner's talked about making more than 4 parts. He said, "Yeah, it's 4 parts,
Don't,
but I could make
don't.
more."
I'm
So
sure he
there could have
could.
been seasons,
Just
and
because he could
that
doesn't
could
mean he
have been
should.
interesting.
I don't know.
I think that there's a reason why Costner has this in mind. I think that there's some cinematic moments that are being set up for part two that will make it justifiable for why it's a film rather than TV.
I'm going to tell you right now exactly what I think you sound like. I think you sound like someone who watched the first three phases of the MCU and loved every bit of it,
Mm-hmm.
and then watched the fourth phase of the MCU while everybody else was saying, Marvel fell off, they got bad after Endgame, none of these movies are going anywhere, they're not giving us enough to care about the characters anymore, where is this all going? And you were just sitting there lying to yourself, trying to gaslight yourself into thinking it was good by holding on to phases 5 and 6, the end of this whole multiverse saga, thinking that it will all lead somewhere worthwhile. And unfortunately, I do not think that that is an effective way of filmmaking.
I
Sorry.
mean, you
Said
know
my
what?
piece.
We'll find out. I think part two will end up being a really solid film. I have faith. I
I'm
think that this
I'm
part one is
sure
a
it'll be awesome.
three-star movie. I think
Okay.
part two could be a 4-star movie.
Here's
So,
here's what I'm going to
you
say.
know,
I am not against sequels. I think many of the best movies of all time are sequels. I disagree with the idea that a part one of two, or I guess in this case, four, needs to be incomplete for the whole story to work. And I could be totally wrong, but the way you described it makes it sound like they set a bunch of stuff up, be it like plot points or characters, that did not get paid off because it will get paid off later.
yeah, there is no payoff. There.
Okay.
I'm trying to think. There's certain moments that I guess kind of got paid off. I guess you could say, like, I'm just trying to think. You know, there's like a sort of romance that develops at the end that seems like a
Develops but
very
does not.
no,
Okay.
no, no. It's a romance that starts at the end, but like had been developing throughout
Oh,
the
okay.
film, and
Kind of.
I think that because of the arc of one of those characters who starts that romance, I'd say that that is completing a character arc.
So one minor subplot in a 3-hour movie
Yeah.
is what I'm here. All right, because
Yep.
here's what I say. Right across the Spider Verse, Dune Part One, the first two Lord of the Rings movies, Infinity War, could go on forever. All of these are still complete movies. They are not fully complete because they are part of a larger story that does not end until the second or third part or whatever. But they all have beginning beginnings, middles, and ends. They have full complete character arcs for many characters, for many subplots within the story. They do work as a movie. They are
Mhm.
part of a larger series, a larger story, but they work as a movie. What I'm hearing is that Horizon 1 does not work as a movie. Fundamentally, just can't exist without the knowledge of part 2 and beyond in the future. And to that I say, that's not even what TV should be.
Well,
Because a
well,
lot of the best TV shows have little mini character arcs within their episodes.
well, Ethan, I,
Logan Thompson.
I think you need to watch this show.
So
Or sorry,
I'm
I said.
So that was a nice little Freudian slip right there, Logan.
I think you need to
That's
watch
what we
the
call
movie.
that's what we call the truth coming out.
I think you need to watch this movie,
I'm
this
okay.
piece of
I'm okay.
cinema, and
I'm
come
okay.
up with your own take.
I am perfectly okay. I'm aware of like the ethical qualms of having a take without watching the thing. I'm okay with that in this case.
Well, I think that your ethical qualms should be more realized and further realized
No,
because
they've been realized completely.
I
Then
know,
like tossed out
but
the window.
yeah, I know, yes, but I think your ethical qualms need to be understood and then, made up for by watching Horizon Part
Can we
1.
talk about Bad Boys now?
I want to convince you to watch Horizon Part One
It's not
somehow.
gonna happen today. Maybe some other day. Today's not the
Some
day.
other day I'll be able to convince you, but not today.
Yeah,
I convinced you to watch Bad Boys.
you did.
I did.
You did.
And I am going to say, similar to a movie like Bad Boys, this does have some really good scenes, like genuinely. And that's not me trying to like convince you to see this movie. Like, as somebody who loves the Western genre, there were certain moments where I was like, I'm so glad I went to see this movie because seeing that on a movie theater screen is something I never thought I'd get to do ever because that genre is a dying genre.
As someone who does not overly love westerns and who also believes that one good scene does not a great movie make, I'm going to hold off for now. We'll come
Okay.
back to this. We'll
We'll come
revisit
back
this
to
next
this.
week. Yeah.
Okay. Sounds good. Well,
Okay.
Bad Boys Ride or Die made $10.3 million and dropped 45%. Kalki 2898 made $5.5 million, predicted to make $10 million, which is a little wild. It only played in like 500 theaters, so I don't know how it was predicted to make 10, but
Probably the Sound of
there,
Freedom
there you
crowd.
go. No, this is an Indian movie.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm
Just
talking
because
about.
like the RRR crowd, I guess they expect, but like
But
yeah,
like it wasn't on my radar, so clearly
yeah,
not.
and I
I don't
looked it
know.
up. It seems like it's like okay or like decent,
Okay.
yeah, but not like an RRR level movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, few things
Anywho,
can be.
no. Yeah, a few things can be. Garfield made $2 million, dropped 47%. Oh, I skipped the Bike Riders.
You
So
skipped the
Bike
bike
Riders
riders.
made $3.3 million and dropped 66%. Big drop for the Bike Riders. And now it is expected to release digitally on July 9th. So very
That's
soon
quick.
after, yeah, very, very quick digital release. Garfield, like I just said, made $2 million, dropped 47%. Planet of the Apes made 1.7, dropped 55%. I can't believe that this movie's still in the top 10. That's just
Yep.
crazy.
It's been here
And
eight
now
weeks now.
our, yeah, it's a wild run for a movie that I don't think anybody expected to hold that well.
Nope.
Kinds of Kindness is our next
Let's
movie to
go.
talk about. Made it $1.5 million out of the projected $2.2 million. You've seen it more recently than I have. What are
I
your
have.
thoughts?
I'm so conflicted on this movie.
Yeah,
And the
yeah.
like I love that I have it at a 4. It's
Mm-hmm.
hilarious. I'm just too generous. Um I really don't know what to think because like it's an anthology. It's 3 stories. And my arc of watching it throughout the 3 was very interesting. First story, loved it.
Yeah.
Have basically no issues with it. I thought it was very entertaining. It's kind of exactly what I wanted it to be. Jesse Plemons is amazing. Love it. Yorgos, yay, good, cool, style, cinematography, woohoo. Willem Dafoe,
Woohoo.
hilarious. Um, Second story, I thought was really funny, both as a concept and an execution. It was like probably the funniest out of the 3. I think like probably the peak of just like like the offbeat humor that Yorgos is doing here. I do think the performances are very good. Obviously, like well shot and all of that. It goes on too long, I think, and it reaches a point where it just gets real. Like it gets really weird, and I knew going in it was going to get really weird. But I think the first story it gets weird, but in the way you'd expect, where it's like it's a Yorgos Lanthimos movie. It's obviously not like your stereotypical thing that everyone's going to be going to see,
Yeah.
but it has that off kilter energy that is consistent throughout the whole like 45 minutes or so. The second story is not consistent at all, and it really bugged me. And maybe that's just because I had certain expectations for it after the first one, but the more it went on, the more I was just kind of not vibing with what Yorgos was putting down.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the performances, while good, are not quite at the level that they were in the first one. Like Jesse Plemons for best actor in that first story, amazing. Love him so much. And I think he's amazing throughout the whole movie. Like the fact that he is playing 3 very different characters all very well is awesome. And Emma Stone in this second one too, also really good. I just didn't love the direction that it took. And then we get to the third one. And the third one is at an inherent disadvantage because it's coming off the second one, which I
Yeah.
didn't vibe with so much.
Mm-hmm.
And so it kind of took me out of the movie to where I then had to like kind of get back on its wavelength. And so I probably would say it's my second favorite of the
Yep.
three.
So we rank them
Um,
the same.
yeah, another just crazy Willem Dafoe role all across the board because like you have the whole main cast in all three of these, aside from Hunter Schafer, who's in the third one for a minute and leaves and is never seen again. I thought she was going to be anymore. That was very upsetting.
Yeah, it was pretty upsetting
As a
after.
Hunter Schafer fan, that pissed me off a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, Willem Dafoe and his speedo, and then his hair in that third story is like love that. Love everything that was done with that.
Mm-hmm.
I think the third story's arc is also really interesting. Emma Stone is much more the focus here than in the other two, and I think she's amazing. Um, Similar to the second one, didn't really know the direction it was taking. I think here it works out for the better, where it's like very darkly comedic by the end, and I think it's very effective there. Um, and the unpredictable nature is maybe a little more engaging, where in the second one, I just wasn't vibing with it so much, and so I wasn't down for it. But I think it just never regained the footing it had in those initial 45 minutes for me, I
Mm-hmm.
think. However, it's a Yorgos Lanthimos movie, so it looks amazing, sounds
Yeah.
amazing. Like the
Yep.
writing, even when the story, like the overarching story within the stories, like aren't operating at maybe the highest level, just line for line, the dialogue is great. And like performances across the board, everybody is doing something so drastic from what they were doing an hour ago, an hour later. It's great. I love it. And I think it's a very unique kind of movie, even for him. Very like kind of his version of the French Dispatch in many ways, I think.
Yeah.
And yeah, like it's no Poor Things. It's not trying to be Poor Things, and it just reaffirms that he's one of the most interesting directors working right now. And
Mm-hmm.
so, despite my problems, I still came away, if not loving every bit of it, really admiring it at all times. And I think the 3 hour runtime is really not that bad because you at least have the anthology format where like you always know sort of where you are in the movie. So it,
Yeah.
at least to me, it didn't feel that long, even when it was slow and I didn't like where it was going.
Gotcha.
That's what I got
That
to say.
that's valid. I pretty much agree with most of what you just said there. I just want to add that the second vignette, I think if you've seen the movie Game Night, you should consider that second vignette an unofficial like sequel to Jesse
Okay.
Plemons' character in Game Night.
That is a fascinating way to look at that.
Because I feel like Yorgos probably got inspiration from that.
Maybe, yeah, that's hilarious.
Yeah. And I never thought about that until, yeah.
Okay.
So I haven't even seen Game Night. I've just seen the one scene with him and the Tostitos.
Yeah, you haven't even seen Game. I've seen Game Night like 3 times. I love it.
Really? Yeah.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about that take?
No, that's hilarious. That
That's a
works.
good.
That
Okay,
works
that works.
completely. Yeah.
I'm happy to hear it.
That
I
like
really want to see Game Night.
I just
But
decided that these two are canonically in the same universe. Thank you for
okay,
that.
you're welcome for
Yeah.
putting that out there for you.
Also,
What
watch
did
Game Night. It's
you
great.
What did you think of RMF?
It was an interesting concept. I knew before, like from reviews, that like there was a recurring character
Yeah,
who was like a very small role, but was kind of this mysterious looming presence throughout the three stories.
yeah.
Um, I think it was similar to just my thoughts on the overall movie. I think the utilization of RMF in the first story is perfect. And I think like it's this weird, mysterious, offbeat thing that's quirky and you pay attention to it, but not so much because it's only this minor character plot point, sort of. And then it just kind of gets a little lost in the weirdness in the latter 2/3.
Hmm.
And so yeah, I think everything great that I have to say about this applies most in the first story.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Me too. I think I think the first story is far and away the best one, and it's not that close. Um,
Yeah.
but I think that this movie is definitely interesting. If you're into Yorgos and haven't seen this film yet, I highly recommend you go check it out. And I think my biggest takeaway from this is that Jesse Plemons is perfect for Yorgos, and I
Yeah.
cannot wait for the movie where him, Yorgos, and Emily Stone re-team up. And I just think that that's going to be great, because then we're going to see Plemons play a feature film character for Yorgos, which I just think will be
Yeah.
so much fun. And I'm excited. All right, well, moving on to the final film in the top 10, a movie called Jat and Juliet 3. Never heard of this in my life, but that made $1.5
There's
million.
two others, apparently.
Yeah, apparently. Never heard of the series before, but if you're into Jat and Juliet, here's your time to shine.
I don't know if I'm
$1.5 million
into it, but
10.
I might have to be now that it kicked If out of the discussion. Thank you.
It did kick If out of the discussion.
Thank God this exists.
So, yeah, out of the top 10 is If.
No, we don't need to. Okay.
Which has had a really good box office run for a movie that not a lot of people thought would, be a standout for May, but I think it's the second highest grosser coming out of May.
It might be
Higher
the
than
second highest grosser, but it's
Furiosa
no
and The Fall
standout.
Guy. Made $183.6 million worldwide, so good for If.
Beating Furiosa. Get out of here.
Yeah. And finally, next weekend, we got
Yes.
Despicable Me 4. Will this movie be another $1 billion grosser?
Probably.
Yeah. Maxine.
Let's go!
I'm so excited. I'm seeing this Wednesday night. It's going to be great.
I'm seeing this in less than a week. I'm hype. Let's go.
Do you have a date yet?
I don't have a date yet. I'm thinking right now, because for those listening, the two of us are going to see each other in person to make a rap music video.
Yes, we are.
Hype. So I think I'm going to see it on Friday, probably.
Okay, because there's early access screenings on Wednesday.
I know that until we are filming our little video, which is not till Saturday, I think I'm good. So okay. I might just see this with the regular crowd.
That's fair. Yeah. I want to see this on Wednesday because I don't know where I can squeeze Despicable Me in, because Simona wants to see this one with me. But I want to try seeing Despicable Me before the music video, which will probably not happen. Mm-hmm. But who knows? And then finally is Beverly Hills Cop Axel F coming out on Netflix. That is a thing. And I'm more likely to see that than Despicable Me this weekend.
Vibes.
So, yeah, there you go. So if you want to see any of those, and Axel F is going to be on Netflix, not in theaters, because Netflix is Netflix.
Yep, they are. Yep. That's objective.
With that being said, I think that's all we got for today's episode. Tune in on Friday for our Midway Movie Awards, where we're going to be awarding films midway through the year. I will be including all the films I've seen this year, minus the ones that I saw at Cannes that haven't been released yet. And Ethan will include all the films he's seen this year, because he has none that he doesn't have to exclude.
Yeah, I'll be including, my two movies of the year, and then squeezing other stuff in where I can.
There you go. And I'm just trying to think of, yes, and then the other thing that we're doing is indie to blockbuster directors. We're going to be talking about a lot of notable directors that made the jump from indie to blockbuster right away. I know I talked about this earlier in the episode when we talked about Michael Sarnowski, but just wanted to give a reminder. And yeah, if you want to see a schedule about all the other episodes and topics that we'll be covering throughout the rest of the month, check us out on Instagram at what.the.film.podcast. And yeah, do we have a schedule on that Instagram?
Yes, we do.
Yeah, it's beautiful. Also give it a follow. Why not?
Please. For our egos.
Yes, really
our
boost
fragile
our egos.
White male egos.
Yes, I know. We are white men who are victims in this society and need our egos to be
wasn't
going to
go that far.
Yeah, we have hard
help, everything's lives. Woke now. Bye.